rather see Keith Thurman fight Boots? Would you rather see Keith Thurman fight Errol Spence? Or would you rather see Keith Thurman fight Kell Brook? And then which will be the better fight for Keith Thurman? Judging off you see him in his last fight.
Man, that's a tough one, man. That's a really tough question. I would just take Errol Spence out of the equation because I think we both can agree we want to see Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence next. So I don't want nothing that's going to delay that. So I'm going to take him out of the equation. Boots, I don't feel like it's realistic. I don't think Keith Thurman under any circumstances is taking the Boots in this fight. So I think the Kell Brook fight makes sense because they both are still a little question marks. Even though Kell Brook looked great this weekend, I want to give him his props. He took Mir Khan out of there, which is what everybody do when they hit his chin, but he did touch his chin. You know what happened, but let's give him credit for the win. And he still got question marks. We still wondering, can he be a factor at 147? Is he still damaged goods or just had the right fighter in front of him? And the same thing with Keith Thurman, you got a lot of questions. And for both of them guys, they're at a stage of their career where they want to make good money. They're prize fighters. Like they said, Kell Brook made around $8 million for the Mir Khan fight. So he's not going back to making from $8 million in the Mir Khan fight to fight in Boots Ennis for $1 million to get in there with that young buck. So he can fight Keith Thurman either over there in the UK or they can make a pay-per-view fight possibly, and he might can get $3 or $4 million for that fight. So I think the most realistic and reasonable fight would be Keith Thurman and Kell Brook.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think that fight, I think Keith Thurman is in a better position than Kell Brook because Kell Brook, we don't know how much longer he can make that weight. He's really too big at 147 as it was. But he don't hit hard enough and is not skilled enough to fight at 154. So he's kind of in a position where he just taking big fights. And Keith Thurman is in a position where he don't want to pick the wrong opponent to lose his place in the totem pole because he's pretty much been marketed, for a championship belt at some point coming up next. So do you really want to risk that, like you said, with a Boots Ennis? No, I don't see that. No. Do you really want to risk that with Kell Brook? Is the question also. I mean, let's be honest. Kell Brook, yeah, he has some vulnerabilities with his eyes, but Kell Brook is tougher than people give him credit for. Like I said, he went in there with Triple G and was taking Triple G shots. In my opinion, early in the rounds, he was beating Triple G, in my opinion, like the first 3 or 4 rounds, until he actually started feeling the effect of those punches, and the over the bone broke. Where Errol Spence, he gave Errol Spence a tough go. Errol Spence kind of washed him. I think I gave Kell Brook about 3 rounds in that fight, 3 or 4 rounds in that fight, but it was a close fight. It was back and forth action.
It was 6 rounds.
Yeah, it was a close fight, but some of the rounds I kind of gave to Errol because he was kind of busier with the jab at some points, and I think Kell was doing a lot of holding, but it was still a close fight. It was still a very close fight, very competitive fight. I just think his other eye broke and he couldn't continue. But Keith Thurman, man, he's known to spin out his mouthpiece when he get hit to the body. Kell Brook, I think his injuries his stoppages were more based off of broken bones. I don't think that bone will break. I think it should be completely healed now. But Keith Thurman get hurt with every shot to the body. So I honestly, if I had to pick today, which I'm not going to pick today, I think Kell Brook got a good chance of upsetting Keith Thurman, in my opinion. And if that happens, I got another question. If he does upset Keith Thurman and take Keith Thurman's spot, would you want to see another Errol Spence versus Kell Brook or another Kell Brook versus Terrence Crawford fight?
No. I think that he considered damaged goods at this stage. I don't think that Terrence Crawford beating Kell Brook again or Errol Spence beating Kell Brook again is going to get them anything. Only thing they can do is fuck them up and then mess around and them not be their night. So I don't see nothing for them to gain fighting Kell Brook. But I think Kell Brook, by beating Thurman, can make himself a player where I think he can be the guy. If you think you ready for Errol Spence or Terrence Crawford, you might have to go through a Keith Thurman or a Kell Brook. So I can see him getting back in that spot again. But as far as those two guys, I don't think they would even entertain that fight at this stage. Like I said, I think most likely, I think they both going to 154 soon, in my opinion. Maybe Terrence Crawford will stick around, but I think they both looking at 154 because Terrence Crawford just mentioned about 154, and already, Spence is just trying to do the undisputed fight, and he want to go to 154. So I think once they clear out the way, I think it's an open game for everybody. I think Boots Ennis, Virgil Tees, Kell Brooks will be back in there. And I think it'll be interesting again because you'll have a lot of vacant belts and a lot of people that's going to have to scrap to get those belts. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, it will be. You mentioned something about 154. Let's talk about Terrence Crawford and his recent call out of Jamal Charlo. Jamal or Jamel? Jamel Charlo. How serious are you taking that fight with him? Because I'm taking it very serious. You really think he's serious about taking that fight? And what is the chances you have him upsetting? Because it will be upset in a lot of people's eyes of Charlo. In my opinion, it's not an upset though.
I would like to see it, but I don't once again, I don't think it's realistic. I think that if for some reason Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence can't make the fight, because he came out and said something very interesting recently. He said that him or Spence is not the reason why the fight not being made, which is kind of shocking for him to come out and say that. He said it's put him under a lot of politics, fans, and put him up, I guess he was hinting at promotional companies. So if that's the case, and if you can't make that Spence fight for some reason, it's probably going to be because of PBC. Because PBC want him to take that Keith Thurman fight and they trying to keep it in-house. And if that's the case, why would PBC give Terrence Crawford Jamel Charlo with 4 belts? You know what I'm saying? I can't see them doing that unless they can guarantee to have Terrence Crawford locked up for 3 or 4 fights. And I don't think Terrence Crawford going to want to give away his freedom anymore because he's went through that one time with Top Rank. I think he's going to do more of the Manny Pacquiao, Canelo, 1 or 2 fight deals. You pay me this certain amount of money and then I'm free again, like Mikey Garcia did also. So I think that's going to be the route he's going to take. But I would love to see it because I think it's a 50-50 fight just because I think that Terrence Crawford is more skilled. But I think because of Jamel being a 154-pounder and being strong as he is, that one good shot can change the fight. So it'll be interesting to me. I would love to see it.
Yeah, I would too. And you made another point too about PBC. Terrence Crawford also touched on that. He also said that no promotional company wants you to go in and beat their champion and leave. They want you to pretty much, like you said, lock you down. I think he's chasing undisputed, man. I think Crawford, you can see what he about. He want undisputed no matter what weight class he at. He want to be the first to do that in 3 weight classes. He want to be able to say I was undisputed at 154, 147, and 140. I do think the Errol fight is next. I don't see both of them going no farther if Errol can get past Ugas, in my opinion. But I'm like you, man. I would love to see a Jamel Charlo fight versus Crawford. I give Crawford a better chance than a lot of people because I've seen a lot of holes in Charlo's game when he fought Harrison and when he fought Costa. I can't pronounce his name. Castone.
Yeah, Casado.
Casado. I seen a lot of holes that Crawford could take advantage of. But I also got another blockage in your way. You know, Errol and Jamel are friends. So what's stopping Errol from going in there and say, yo, don't get this man no fight, man. We're gonna keep this man. We're gonna black this man out and wait till he, you know what I'm saying, take what I'm gonna give him. We're gonna get the 60-40 split. Don't give him no big fight. He gonna fight me next. What's stopping Errol from making that call and doing that?
He could. You know, he might say that, and then if him and Jamel is really that close, he could say, yeah, you know, man. Because he said maybe 2 weeks ago, man, leave me alone. Worry about 147. So I mean, to me, I took that as he's not interested in Crawford. But I will say that can throw a kink in the plan is WBO. He's the WBO champion, Terrence Crawford. And with the WBO rule, if he decides to move up, he becomes the mandatory for the WBO at 154. So he can try to force his hand. But we talked about that, you know what I'm saying, recently, how these promotional companies have control over these belts. So they supposed to go by certain rules, but when the money isn't right or they want to do something else, they find ways around it. But if they go by the rules, if he decides to go up to 154, he can become the mandatory for Jamal for the WBO title. So he can go that route and force PBC hand.